I'm George Lutz, the previous owner of the house on Oceanside Lane, I believe it was. It's been a while. It's been a long time. The day we moved in was like any other day. It was cloudy, like it normally is in New York. It was fall. It was a very pretty day. Leaves were changing. The kids were really excited because the house was big and beautiful. Big, beautiful tree out front. My wife, Kathy, was really excited about it. It's a house of her dreams. I mean, it was huge. It was way more than we thought we could afford. It was an older home, so the creaks, the weird noises, the stretching, the moaning, the screaming, things like that you kind of expect in an older house. Then, I mean, it got really cold, like all the time. Like all the time it's freezing. And it was fall in New York, so, you know, a drafty house, you expect it to get cold. But it had a big furnace, and I was constantly chopping wood and filling the furnace and lighting fires and turning on stoves to warm up my hands and stuff because it was just so cold in the house, so weirdly cold. I've been a neighbor to the Lutzes in Amityville. We were not very well acquainted. I lived next to them for nearly 28 days. But the Lutzes were a very strange family to begin with. From the moment they moved in, I knew they were wrong for the neighborhood. They're weirdos. They're all weirdos. The little kids were weirdos. The dad was a weirdo, and the mom was a weirdo. For example, 3:15 every morning, George Lutz would walk out of his house, wander onto his boat ramp, stare into the middle of nowhere, sometimes pass out, sometimes not, and then just lay there for hours, sometimes staring, sometimes screaming. My favorite place of all time is my boathouse. I loved my boathouse. Not a lot of houses have boathouses because most houses aren't actually by the water. This one not only had a boathouse, but was by a body of water, which is my two favorite things about boathouses. I remember one time in particular, I was watching the house from afar, you know, to keep people safe. And it seemed like they were chopping wood or something, and that's a dangerous activity, so I got closer. I got closer to make sure that they were safe, and there was children involved, you know? And anytime there's children involved, I get concerned, especially children at such a young age. So it turns out that Mr. Lutz was splitting wood with his younger son and having him hold the wood on top of the other log so that you can split it. And he said something to the effect of, "Careful, you get shaky, I get shaky." I found that particularly odd because the wood could have stood there by itself and it seemed like he was going to chop the young man's hands off.
Suffolk County Police, may I help you? Everybody's dead.
I've been to a lot of crime scenes. I've never seen anything like this. 6 members of the family were found last night in bed, shot, and killed.
Killed were car dealer Ronald DeFeo, his wife, and 4 of their children. The sole survivor of the family, 23-year-old Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr., is said to have discovered the...
After some research, my wife found through, you know, just looking at a normal public library research, you know, that's what she calls research, going to a public library and looking at a book. Anyway, she found out that the people who had lived there before, well, originally the people that lived there were Native Americans who used it as a burial site, like Poltergeist. Remember the movie Poltergeist? Just like that, apparently, except, you know, like way back in the day. And there's a reverend that lived there as well. His name was Jeremiah Ketchum. Jeremiah Ketchum, he called himself as reverend, but what he liked to do is he liked to torture Indians on his property in a little room downstairs, and then he made his own burial ground. So it was like an Indian burial ground and then like a colonial burial ground. And then Ronald DeFeo came through and killed his family, so it was like a modern day burial ground. So it's like on the levels of burial grounds, there's like burial ground on top of burial ground. It's just so hard. Oh God. It's like a burial ground, top of burial ground, on top of burial ground. And on top of all those burial grounds is our home.
What really happened here? Will anyone ever truly know? Did Jeremiah Ketchum haunt this home? Or did the spirits of ancient ancestors become angry? Did the ghosts of the Native Americans who lived here, who also had a burial ground which was desecrated like 3 or 4 times, exacted revenge on... Okay, so there's like this reverend and an Indian, but later there's a guy who murdered this family and also a guy who had a boat, and stuff got crazy. And next week, on Real True Haunting that really happened to this real guy, did a blender become possessed by the devil himself, or were they just bad smoothies? Join us. Goodbye.